Alright guys, so I got the car stacked. Just want to give you an idea of the clearance that I do have with these two cars on the rack. If you can see behind me, they are right there. And there's plenty of room at the bottom of the car and also plenty of room at the top of the car. Welcome back to the channel guys, this is Paul and today we're going to take a closer look at my new 4-post lift here. Alright, so the question is, why did I get this 4-post lift? And my reason may be different than yours, but for me it's because I have a 3-car garage and I'm looking to add a 4th car, and I still want to store all the cars in my garage. So this actually solves that problem for me because I can stack the cars here, have two cars right here while I can park the new one over here, and I still have my 4Runner on this side over here. So I am able to fit 4 cars in my garage with this 4-post setup. The other added benefit is that I can do fluid changes, I can do inspection to the undercarriage. All right, so this is the installation day. It did take about 3 weeks to get the lift delivered after ordering. These guys showed up on time and they were able to install the lift in about 3 to 4 hours. They unloaded the lift off of their trailer, took the whole lift apart, assembled it piece by piece inside the garage. One thing I would recommend is for you to take the whole day off and make sure the area is cleaned out and cleared before these guys show up. And then afterwards, you want to make sure everything is operational before the guys leave. One thing to note is to make sure you have the power source needed for the hydraulic pump ready to go so that these guys can test it out the same day. One thing to note before purchasing your lift, and that is you want to make sure that the cars that you plan to put on the lift will actually be stackable based on the height of the garage. So I had to measure the height of my garage, and the height was about 110 inches. The S2000 and the NSX on top of each other would be able to fit in this space just perfectly fine. All right, so just make sure that when you are looking at your cars and measuring them, you want to make sure you have enough clearance to stack both cars, plus a few inches at the top so that you can actually lift the car up to release the latches before lowering the car. So another thing is you want to measure the car like I currently have right now at its highest peak. So this one is about 50 inches. I'm just eyeballing, about 50 inches. And the runners themselves down here, the runners, is about 5.5 to 6 inches. So you have to take that into account, and then you also have to measure your second car to see where that one sits. And with the 2 plus the runner, you got to have at least another 4 to 6 inches on top, and that will kind of give you an idea if your garage height will work for you. Now I have a tandem setup, so the area where I'm going to put the car is actually in the back of the garage. So if I spin this around, the front of the garage is back there. This is the back of the garage, so I don't have any garage door openers back here. But if you do have like a garage door opener, you may want to relocate that. And mine is actually right here. The garage opener is back this way, and it is up there. And some actually have that removed and thrown onto the side. That's very possible, but you would have to get somebody to come out to get that done. And they'll also have to push this garage door all the way to the top while it's rolling up to make it flush to the top. But in this instance, my garage, I don't need that. The garage door is back over here, and where I'm putting the 4-post lift is back this way, so I don't have any obstruction at the top. I just have to make sure that I have the clearance back here. So I do have the clearance with this car and with the black car here. And I do plan to get a 4th car, and I just haven't decided on that car yet. But when I get that car, I'm confident it'll fit on the lift with these cars, and it should also sit over here just fine. All right, so I'm gonna go and activate the lift, and so you can kind of see the speed and where the clicks happen and how high I'm gonna take this car up just to make clearance for the second car. So the car is going up and you can kind of tell the speed. It is not that fast, but also not that slow. And because you're not going to be lifting your car every day, I think this is okay, at least for me. Most of the time the cars just sit here and I take it out maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times a year. So sitting here should be fine for my case. All right, so that's the highest I can go with this lift. Make sure that when the lift is going up, you hear 4 clicks. That's how you know that that it is where it needs to be in terms of the latches. You got to hear 4 clicks so that when you release it down, they're catching onto the holes that we're talking about earlier in here. And you got to make sure that they're clicking into these holes right here. So that way there's pressure off of the cables and the posts, the rails themselves are lashed onto the holes right here, and they're actually sitting on the post instead of the cables holding it up. One of the other things, actually 2 things here that I want to make a note of, and that is if you're looking to get something like this, you want to make sure you have the drip trays, and I purchased 4 of them for this setup. Most people purchase only 2, but if you have 2, and I don't know if you can see, if you have 2, you're only covering pretty much the front of the car. So here's the first one here, second one here, right? And I purchased 4, so I have another one here, and then there's one right here that I'm currently not using. I left that open so I can look at the exhaust system. But just want to make sure you get this here. It's about $100 some odd. Get 4 of them, and then that way nothing drips from the top to the bottom car. The other thing is I did purchase these aluminum racks. These are 4 feet racks, and they're just much lighter than the other standard rack, the yellow ones. And also these are longer. And I don't remember the degree, but being that they're longer, they accommodate lower cars. And both my cars clear just fine using those ramps. So there it is. That's the ramp, and it just clears it by probably 1 inch at the bottom here. Clears about 1 inch, and that is enough to get up onto the lift. So I don't know if you can see that, but barely clears it right there. And it's the same for both cars. The other thing I want to talk about is just to make yourself a note, because over time you're going to forget your clearance. So for me, I have these stickers right here. I'm not sure if you can read that, but this lets me know if I put the NSX on top, I have 54-inch clearance. S2K on top, I have 50-inch clearance. And so if I know that, then I can measure the car that I'm going to put under, and I can pretty much ensure that it's going to clear. The other thing that I put on my lift as an indicator is, it's just for myself, looking from this, and I have stickers here, lets me know that when I have the S2000 on top, This is the bottom mark. That's where this should line up. And if I put the NSX on top, the bottom here should line up here. And that's kind of how I know where they should sit to provide clearance on the bottom and to ensure that the top's not going to hit when I raise the car or when I raise the lift here. So the other thing is I have these markers on top here, S2K, meaning if I'm going to release and put this rack 4-post back down, I need to raise it to here, and then I can release or engage the release on the latches before dropping this down. Same thing, this is for the NSX. If the NSX is on top, I can raise the lift all the way to here, turn on the release to release the latch, and then lower the car all the way down. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and release the latches, and I do that when I'm actually pushing on this to increase or to lift up the lift. So as I'm lifting, I'm holding the latch to engage the latches so that they're in the release mode, and then I can lower the lift down. So let's go ahead and do that here, just to give you an idea of how fast this lift actually goes down. At the same time, I'm looking at my sticker marker, and I'm going to be releasing now while still holding the airlocks. Making sure that they're all being lowered equally from all posts, because if that doesn't happen, then that means that the lock is still engaged on one of the posts, and that's going to be really bad. All right, so going down is definitely much faster than going up. So we're already almost to the bottom here. All right. And we made it to the bottom. The other thing that I didn't talk about that I should is the battery tender, and I do have one here. It's on this car. I have a battery tender running in here, and let me just swing the camera around so you can see. So I have the battery tender right there, and it's connected all the time just in case I need to take this car out. It's currently connected, and it's currently fully charged, and it's plugged in right there. The last thing you want is to take your car out and the battery is drained or dead just from sitting, you know, for months on the lift. So there's a battery tender, and this car has just been parked for a while. So the battery tender is there just to make sure that it's got some juice should I need to take the car out for a sunny day. Also, the other thing that I do like about this is that the release is air activated, and that air is right there. So to me, I just like that because I don't have to bend down and pull or hold down a lever to release the latches while still trying to, actually this right here is the release for the hydraulic. At the same time, you need to release the actual latches that's on the 4 posts. And it's just easier to hold this right here and this at the same time because they're close to each other, versus the other models out there where the latch to release is actually at the bottom down here, and you'd have to hold that latch and hold this at the same time, and I just kind of didn't like that. One thing I do want to caution is that I purchased this one here, and this is the standard. They do make a narrow setup lift for garages that are just not as wide, but the problem with that is that you can only fit narrow cars. So it would fit this S2000, but the NSX is just gonna be a really tight fit, and the tires would actually catch this right here because it's actually, the whole lift is 10 inches shorter. So it'll be like about over here. And if you run aggressive offset, your tires are just gonna catch this part right here. The rear tires, that is. So it's a very, very tight fit, but I went with the standard because it's a bit wider and you have that clearance. So cars like this will fit just fine, but once you start getting into like the GTR or the new NSX or domestic Mustangs and muscle cars, they require a bit more width, and so the standard I think is the one everyone should go for unless you have really small cars like Mini Coopers. One of the things I want to take a closer look at is the pump here, the air pump, and this is one that I highly recommend because it is very quiet. This is probably one of the quietest ones on the market, and it's also because it's got this filter right here. It's got this filter and it's got this extended tube here that makes it really, really quiet. So this thing, you can barely hear it when it's activated. So let me just try to get it turned on. All right, that is the compressor turned on right now. So you can hear it, but it's really quiet compared to standard compressors. And you can barely hear it. It's very, very quiet. And I highly recommend this one. It works perfectly fine. And if you are interested in getting one, I'll put that link down in the description below. But this would be the one that I would recommend because it's a good size and it is skinny and tall, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. And again, just very quiet, and it works really well with this lift. One of the other reasons why I went with BendPak is because of its certification. And you just want to make sure that you get one that is certified, so you know, at least have a peace of mind that is engineered and is built well, and that you wouldn't run into any problems with this lift long term. So as you can see, this lift is pretty thick. They made sure it was thick, and it's just a bit more sturdier when it's thicker. Engineering is very good, very tight fitment. The other thing you want to caution yourself is when you're getting a lift or looking for a lift, you want to know the spaces between each click, which is these right here. There's latches that latches in here, and that'll kind of give you an idea of the height of the car that you can accommodate. So for this setup here, I went with the BendPak because it's about 4 inches between each click, and you can see that from here. It would latch on here. The next latch would happen right here. Some of the lift are 6 inches, and so that means that you would have to really pay attention to your car height, because at 6 inches you may be able to accommodate only certain vehicles at certain height, if that makes any sense. But activating this here, I do have it set up with a standard 110 volts, and I'm told that if I went with a 220, it would be able to raise the car faster. But I didn't want to pay for the additional cost of running 220 all the way over here, so I stuck with the standard 110 volt setup. All right, so you can tell if I come up close here, still got a good, I don't know, 10, 12 inches maybe of space in the bottom car. And again, both cars are lowered, so that also gives it the ability to have more clearance. So if we look here, you can see the clearance on the car here, the bottom car. And it's going to be hard to see, but there is clearance on top of the car there. There's some clearance you can see. So it's a good idea to make sure that your garage height is going to be able to clear both cars. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comment section below. And if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.